Welcome to the Stumbling Spirit, contemplations on the path of resilience. Whether you realize it or not, you are resilient. It's your birthright. As you take in your next breath, know this truth. It's not only about your capacity to overcome difficult situations, but it's about your courage to do the necessary work to heal, learn, grow, and move forward. What you gain is invaluable wisdom. And it's through these hard stumbles in life that we often discover a new purpose that aligns with our spirit. My name is Fabio da Silva Fernandez, Reiki Master, Mindfulness Coach, and Mystical Explorer. Join me as the Stumbling Spirit podcast highlights the lives of extraordinary people like you, sharing transformative stories and beneficial practices of resilience to guide you on your wellness journey. Shawn Clearsky Davies is the subject of award-winning documentary Clear Sky. Still on the festival circuit, this unfiltered portrait has garnered international attention and praise for its real-time examination of the road to recovery of an addict in search of himself and his Indigenous culture. This inspirational account tackles childhood trauma, identity, spirituality, and rehab with the help of long-distance running, psychedelic-assisted therapy, and sacred sweat lodge ceremonies. It's a pleasure to welcome to the show co-director and protagonist of Clear Sky, marathoner and friend, and Anishinaabe of the Ojibwe Nation, Shawn Clearsky Davies, or simply Clear Sky. Hello, Clear Sky.
Hey, how's it going, Fabio? Good to be here.
Thanks so much. It's great to have you on the show. Congratulations on the film.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a long time in the making, and it still isn't out yet. But it's been quite the ride so far.
So, full disclosure, I've not seen the documentary yet, but obviously, I want to as soon as it's widely available. But I did do some research, so I have a sense of what it's about. And I do want to highlight something. So, besides you, there's a team of people that put the documentary together, and I want to specifically spotlight the other director and the initiator of the project, who is Michael Del Monte, and we'll talk a little bit more about Michael later, but I wanted to just quickly mention him now. So I wanted to sort of get your thoughts. I mean, your story has gotten a lot of attention because of this documentary. How does it feel to witness your life story screened at these various international film festivals?
Well, when I first saw it for the first time, it was it was something different for me to see as the film took. I think it was like 3 years or something over a period of time of my life, talking about going through my recovery at that point. I had been in recovery before. It hadn't worked for me, and I ended up back drinking and partying, and actually right when I was at a good point in my life. It was right when I was in Toronto running with black lungs. Everything was going great, and I thought everything was going great, but I guess, yeah, I just allowed myself to start celebrating, and that kind of turned into like eventually a full on addiction of back into drugs. And yeah, it was very quiet. I was really quiet about it, and until it kind of got out of hand. And at that point, I had moved out of Toronto at that time. So yeah, it was a different time then.
So, what has the response been from people who have watched the documentary?
The response has been pretty overwhelming. I went to two screenings. I went to one in Atlanta. We won an award there. That went really well, and it was quite amazing to see the people like who didn't know me kind of stand up and just talk to me after. And certain people could get the film because there's more than about, like, there's adoption in it, there's trauma in it, there's a whole bunch of stuff that attributed me to becoming like an alcoholic and a drug addict. Yeah.
Well, that was a pretty big deal because that award that you got at Atlanta was Best Film at the 2025 Atlanta Documentary Film Festival. That's a big deal.
Yeah, no, it was a big deal, and it's quite amazing to see the different people when what attracts them, and them being able to like tell their story and how it affects them, and like how they could feel like, oh, I felt this. And so yeah, it's amazing. It was amazing to see people come up and talk to me about it, and say how much like it's touched them, or inspired them, the resilience, I guess. And yeah, I think that's the thing about recovery is it is a long road. It's kind of like a never ending road. You kind of have to make it like a lifestyle almost. So when I think about it, it's amazing, and it makes me feel good inside that I can touch other people, and other people can kind of touch into seeing the movie, and just being really moved by it.
And I want to talk about your journey. And first, I want to give a shout out to Dylan Burrows of the Optical View podcast because that's where I did a lot of my research. And so I want to go back in time a little bit and talk about your childhood. So you were given up for adoption at birth and spent the first few years in the Oshawa area, eventually moving to Peterborough, Ontario, where you were raised for most of your childhood upbringing. And you moved between foster families and you were eventually adopted by a white family. You are Indigenous. In the lead up to that adoption, do you have a felt sense of what life was like during that period of time in the lead up to that adoption?
Well, that happened early, very early on. So when that happened, that was like early in my adoption. So when I was given up, my mom had given me up in Oshawa. There was a foster family that lived around here that had taken me in. They were just a foster family at this point, who would have eventually become my adopted family. So they were a foster family, and then so eventually, like I was essentially being like up for foster. There was a couple that had adopted me, and I had went and lived with them for. I'm not really sure, like not like a year, but under a year. So it would have been under that time frame. Now, under that time frame, I was a very unhappy baby. I was crying a lot there. Yeah, I wasn't the same baby as I was when I was with the foster family. I think I'm not sure what could have happened during that time. I know that I have feelings of when I was younger of, and it's so traumatized that I don't actually remember the full thing. But I have like I get these flashbacks almost. So it's like I get flashbacks of men's cologne. I get feelings of overwhelmness. It's like a feeling of somebody like holding you, and you can't get away from them.
Mhm.
So I don't know exactly where that comes from, but I developed, all through like up until now, I still get it. I feel like I can almost remember a little bit more nowadays, just because maybe I'm breaking that those walls down that you create for yourself when you have trauma as a child. So
Mhm.
I think something might have happened, and I probably like disassociated myself there, and the mother brought me back, and brought me back to the foster family because I was just, yeah, I wasn't happy there. So that when they brought me back, my foster family, they adopted me at that point. When I came back, my dad was like, "That's it. He's not going anywhere else." So they adopted me at that point, and yeah, I had a family. I grew to that family as being, my new adopted family was my family. They adopted a brother for me to grow up with. I have a younger brother, a couple years younger. His name's Jeremy. I have three older sisters that were already part of the family. So I had three older sisters and I had a younger brother, and very loved, and it was almost like that whatever that was, it was forgotten, and that was that. I don't ever really remember these feelings until till after some other stuff happened, just because I was happy. I had a new family. So that was everything was great, and yeah, and we were living our life, and my parents were married, and then my dad ended up having like an affair with my mom, and then there was like a family split. So I would have been in probably grade four or five. So I'm not even sure what age I would have been. Maybe like I don't know, 10 or 12, somewhere around there. I can't really remember. So then that family that I had, grown to love and grown to want, and it was like all of a sudden like kind of breaking off. And so that thing that I needed, that thing that I had, that, and I had already been given up as a child. So that the trauma of that being given up stuck with me. It stuck with me as a kid. And that could have been a reason why I was crying when I was given up the second time, like to the being adopted. Yeah, just all these things kind of built up. And yeah, I think when my dad left because they got a divorce, I think that was kind of like the last bit for me, because I went to live with my mom, and my brother did too at first, and I kind of had to grow up quick because I was I guess like the man of the house, kind of. I took it upon myself. Now this time I would have been in grade 7 or 8 when I moved to Peterborough, so I would have been like kind of growing, getting into high school, and different changes and everything. And my mom, like, she was single for a bit, and she was like dating here and there, and my brother was living with us, and then he was always in trouble. And this was all because of, just the breakup of the family, like the construction of our family that we had, the breakdown of it, and them not understanding how me and my brother, as and nobody really at that time understanding how, I think Indigenous kids need a little bit like a different structure to learn everything, to learn to live like in the old ways, how they do. Like, they have a community helping, like in their village or whatever. It's like a community is there to help. Everybody's, has their own thing. So I think that also goes to along down the lines of us, being, even intergenerational, call it, you know, just having to do things this way, and not, I think that all just has an effect on us as Indigenous youth trying to grow up in this white world, not knowing that it has, an effect, but it essentially does.
And reconnecting to your culture is one thing that you explore in this documentary. I mean, it's part of your life. I wanted to talk about in that period of time that you were dealing with the breakup of your parents and what was happening within you emotionally and psychologically. You were also dealing with bullying in school as well. And so I'm wondering if you could maybe explain a little bit about what was going on in that regard.
Yeah, the bullying. It was funny. I look back, and the bullying that I encountered was when I was with my parents, when we were a family. It was a younger, so I would have been in probably 3 or 4, and it just happened like at my school. These kids were just like, they would bother me. I can remember feeling like always wanting to fit in so I'd be like kind of like quietly like slide into a group, like try to find my way as a kid, like how to. And I remember not knowing what that was until like at a point in school. I remember I was playing like flag football and I just did this awesome move or something, and everyone was like, "Oh, that was awesome!" And everyone cheered me because I was like, I did this diving like grab and like grab this the flag or something, and it was just a point where I saw everybody was like cheering me on and everything, and I just remember that like that feeling of wanting to fit in. So when I was at this school, it was I was getting bullied, and it was about my skin. And I remember one time, like I don't know why I was doing it, but I remember I was doing it. I was in the bathroom, and I was like in there for a very long time, and my mom was like wondering what I was doing finally. And when she came in, I was scrubbing my skin, like just there was no dirt on me, but it was because of my skin was brown. I told her that people at school thought I was dirty because my skin's brown. And that was a point where like kids would like bully up and bother me. There was a point I remember being pulled aside, and these two kids, I can't even remember what they were doing, but I remember they were bugging me in front of there was these girls, and they were just bothering me in front of this. It was in front of my house, and I remember running inside. I remember being so mad, and I remember talking with them and like the next day, and with the principal, and like everything being like them. Then they were crying because I don't know, they didn't know the seriousness of it. It was kind of like nothing, and then all of a sudden, like they were my friends because they had to talk to me. But it was totally weird because yeah, it was like one day they were bullying me because of my skin, and then because they got told they had to be what was wrong, it was like they were being my buddy after that. So it was like a feeling of like fakeness of like, yeah, these guys aren't my friends. They just, yeah, I don't know.
Was there any diversity in your school?
Not there was. I think there was another East Indian boy at my school, but that was it. Yeah, it was mostly white. It was a white town. It's not anymore. Like I moved. Like I'm still in the town. I moved back to the town where I'm in Bowmanville now, and it's way much more diverse than it used to be. Naturally, the city's moving this way, but yeah, back then it wasn't as busy. It was like, yeah, farm, there's roads, and apple orchards are now like subdivisions. It was much different than it is now. I thought about that bullying because that bullying ended up turning me into like making me a bad person. And I remember like bullying other people. I became a bully because I was like bullied. If I guess it makes sense. But yeah, once I got into high school, I started becoming. It was like I had this anger, even in probably like some maybe like a bit of grade eight. I think after my parents split, my dad was like he was became. I always saw it like him drinking, and I remember him drinking, but he had a drinking issue. And then I remember at one point he was like full on alcoholic, and he was a scary guy. Like he was an English man, one who I like obviously loved when I was younger and looked up to him. And then I think it kind of crushed me when he did what he did. And like I get it now. I talk to him, and we have a great relationship and everything. And like I understand, like being an adult, how things can change. And as a kid, though, you don't see that. And yeah, it really damaged me, but it sent me into this like I had to be almost like strong and tough kind of attitude, and that I kind of took on in high school. And even in high school, trying to fit in, I felt like I couldn't fit in. I find like all the things like I really kept down, like the things that angered me, and I found that like going through high school, like I started finding my group, and because I was playing on the football team, and through that I was at that point I was drinking now in high school. So that was something that was really changed my life, because that just started as something as like, let's just try this like everybody else. I didn't even think about ever wanting to try to drink. Like I went for my friends, and my friends were like, oh yeah, we're having a party, like come over, we're drinking beer. And I didn't even like, I had no interest in it. I was like staying at home playing video games. And I remember I was like $7 and they had like a bunch of cases, and it was like, I remember drinking the beer and thinking it tasted nasty because it was just like a nasty taste for me. But they're like, yeah, just keep drinking it, you'll get a buzz. I'm like, what is this like buzz? And I remember, I don't know if it was like the third or fourth, but I just remember like realizing that I had finished 3 beer, and I was like, I looked at my what I was drinking, and it was almost like I had forgotten that I had drinking a couple beers, and I was in this glow, like I had this glow feeling, like obviously I was getting drunk, and it was like the best feeling ever. For me, it was like the best feeling I've ever felt. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And everybody was like, you're drunk. People are like having fun or doing stupid shit. And at first it was like, yeah, this is awesome. And so drinking became my thing. It was like every weekend I was gonna drink, and that's what we would do. We would drink every weekend. And then it started, and then I remember trying rye, and I just blacked out completely, like not really, but I did crazy stuff, and I was with my friends. So I was like, oh, that's cool, like whatever. My friends think it's cool. So I remember drinking rye for a while, and I would just think getting like kind of crazy would like scare people. And I think that just became my life in high school. Like it was like, yeah, I was just doing my thing, and then smoking pot. And then my grades started falling. And then, yeah, it took me like 6 years to finish high school. And it was like I was selling pot to like the grade nine and tens. I was on my way not to anything great, but I graduated, and I went to, after that, I went to college, and I took law. I don't know why I took law, but yeah, that didn't last very long. After that, it was like pretty much full on alcoholism for a while.
There was a moment in your teens when you decided to find out about your birth mom and your roots. And you walk into an Indian Affairs building and you ask questions. So, can you talk about that experience?
Yeah, sure. That was in Peterborough, and I would have been in probably about. I was in high school. I think I was just curious. I don't know why at that time. Maybe I was subconsciously wanting to know who I was, and had to find out through that way. There was Native people around because Curve Lake is fairly close, and the Trent University offers a Native course there that's really good. And there was a Native Affairs place down there. I remember it's not there anymore, but I was walking down the road, and I remember sometimes I'd walk down the street and I'd see like an older Native lady or something, and I'd be like, I wonder if that's my mom, or because I had no idea. So I just went in there, and I just wanted to see what it was about. And I saw this lady, and this lady asked me if she could help me. And I said, oh, I'm not sure. I don't even know what this place is, but I'm Native, I'm Indian, and I'm just here. And she's like, oh, well, what's your name? And I told her I said I was adopted, but she's like, oh, well, who's so and so? She was just trying to like get some information on, because she could tell I was like trying to look. I don't even think she was like supposed to give me the information that she gave me, but I think she realized that how the system was at that point and wanted to help me out. So she looked up, and looked up my reserve, and like found that there was a lot of clear skies there. And so she's like, oh yeah, there's tons of clear skies there. So she gave me like the address of like close to where it was, and like the band office, all this information. And I had it. I remember I had it on tacked next to my bed, and I had it there for a very long time. And I never said anything to my mom about it or anything like that. And then my mom came downstairs one time and had the phone in her hand, and and she was like, "Someone wants to talk to you." And I'd never talked to her before. And I looked at her, and I said, "Who is it?" And she's like, here, just talk. So I picked up the phone and I said hello, and I could hear like a woman's voice the other line, and it was my mom. And it was the first time I was able to talk to her, and we cried a lot. She kept saying, "I'm sorry," and she's like, "I love you, my boy." And I had talked to my mom, and so I was about 18 at this time. And yeah, it was right before I moved out. And so we made plans to go out there and meet them. So that would have been the first time that I had met my parents, my real parents, when I was 18. My mom, we flew out there, and we met them. And there was a whole different family over there. Like, I had a sister that was a year younger. I had a sister that was 2 or 3 years younger than that. My mom was either pregnant or just had, I can't remember. So I had three sisters and one brother over there. And when I say over there, that's Winnipeg. It's in Manitoba. Brandon is where they live. So that would have been the first place I went to go visit them. And our reserve is, I think it's a couple hours north of there. It's called Wayway Shikapo. That's where my reserve is. So we actually went to the reserve as well when we first went out there. It was different for me because I was kind of like shocked with this whole different family, and the way they was different. And I remember wanting to live there, like live with them, and I remember expressing that. It must have been hard for my mom to hear. I'm glad I didn't. The way things went was the way that they were supposed to go. They just had to go this way for us to learn our lessons and become the people who we are like now. And I guess understand that. So I think that's a good gift. I went a couple times after that. I was like fully drinking at that time, and even that became an issue with my mom out there, and I was a little bit lost and I was just overtaken by the drink, and I think I was mad. I think that brought out the anger I had towards my mom, because I still had anger. I couldn't understand why she gave me up. And I remember even like telling her like that's not the reason, and being just a kid and like not just, I don't know, just not believing what she was saying. And so our relationship kind of strained for a bit. And yeah, we didn't talk for a long time. We had talked before we had done before I went out there, because we went out there for the filming.
Mhm.
So we had a little bit of our like closure. And when I was healing, I called her because when I did my ceremonies, when I went into where I was, it felt like I just understood things a little bit better. I understood my mom's decision for having to give me up. Yeah, and I understand that it was the best decision. Things could have been a lot different, a lot worse.
For our listeners as well, Indian Affairs was the antiquated name for a ministry, a federal ministry within Canada. I believe it's called Indigenous Affairs now, but that was the old term for it. So I just wanted to kind of clear that up because I know that sometimes terms that are used can be triggering. So I just wanted to mention that as well. To my listeners, what do you think of my conversation with Shawn Clearsky Davies? Feel free to DM me on Blue Sky at thestumblingspirit.bsky.social. I'd love to hear from you. One of the things that you mentioned earlier was that you were in a cycle of abusing drugs. I wanted to get a sense of, and you talked a little bit about it, because I've heard people say in the past that in their addiction, they found that the substance was really about numbing or escaping pain. So I'm curious about whether that was your experience with drugs.
I would say yes, but I would say at the time you're not thinking of that because you're already in the addiction. You're already forgotten where has come from. I thought my addiction came from, trying coke this one time, and it started, and I thought that was awesome, but like It is about the numbing, and it is about escaping the pain because you're not feeling it anymore, and you're not even thinking about whatever that was. Once you get, it's like almost once you get one addiction, though, it's like it all that is forgotten because the addiction isn't. It's now like when I first started drinking, I didn't like. Why did I start drinking, and why did I just start loving it? I just loved the feeling of it. I loved it. I loved the feel of feeling that numb of crazy. And when I was getting high, I loved the feeling of that. I love that feeling. What was that feeling? Was that trying to get numb me? I guess it was. So the answer is yeah, but subconsciously I didn't know that. Or subconsciously, I guess maybe I did know that. And I just looked at it as like, I just like to party. I just like to this. But I just kept partying and I just kept doing this and I just kept trying that. And it's like once you got into one drug or one addiction, it didn't matter. You didn't know, you forgot why you were doing it. Now all of a sudden you're just addicted, and because it feels good and it takes you to where you're now. Like, I'm going to buy a Coke, I'm going to get high, and this is what makes me happy. I don't ever remember I'm not going to think about what happened to me or what got me to where, you know what I mean? Like, you forget that, and then you're just stuck with addiction. It's got to come like early. It's got to come really, really early for people, and I think it does. And I think a lot of people don't realize why they're doing that, why they're drinking. Oh, I just like it. This they think that, but it's got to come from something. Yeah, I drink it because it makes me feel easy in this place. Okay, so why aren't you feeling easy in that place? Where does that, you know what I mean? Like something makes you do that. What is making you do that to change you, to change you to? So I feel like it comes from some sort of like trauma induced experience, I believe.
What's interesting is that in the midst of your binging on drugs and stuff, you're actually doing things for your wellness as well. Like you're doing the boxing, you're doing the Muay Thai, and then
Yeah.
later you're doing the long distance running. So there's a paradox in that. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering about that relationship. So did you find that the physical activity, the fitness, did it balance things out or did it make things worse?
Well, so I had stopped drinking before, and that's when I was into boxing. I got into boxing. Actually, I was drinking a bit. I was drinking a little bit. It wasn't crazy, but I had gotten into boxing, and I remember I was doing. But once again, it was like, I was celebrating or something, and it was like, and then it got to the point. I remember, like, before I quit boxing, it was like I was doing cocaine and sparring, like, and not telling my coaches, but I remember doing like blow and then going like doing a sparring session and not thinking anything of it. But then I remember losing my last fight, and then yeah, just like pretty much quitting. It was on like the downgrade from that. Same with like running. It was like I was sober, and then I was starting to celebrate again, and then I was doing coke again, and then I kind of stopped racing, and then I was still doing it, but I was keeping it quiet. So it was more like at the time it was more like being under wraps, and because I was doing drugs, I was really like by myself, but I had to run to get everywhere because I didn't drive, and all my money was spent on drugs, so I was still running. So I was like convinced myself to have this running routine while I was still like using and drinking. I remember I used to work when I was in Toronto. I like the science center. It was like a 14K back to Parkdale. But I remember going to the LCBO and grabbing like a vodka bottle and carrying it with me like it was my water bottle, like all the way home, like stopping drinking and like stopping drinking, thinking, oh, this is like no problem for me. Like, not realizing the damage that is probably doing to my body. But, and then, yeah, even when I moved to Bowmanville, I was still even drinking here. And I was drinking and doing coke, and it was like a weekend thing mostly. So I would do my week stuff, and then the weekend would come, and I'd be like partying and stuff. And so in the end, it was like I had stopped drinking, and I was doing blow all the time, and I was still running because at COVID was the worst because COVID, like, I wasn't working. I was still using. So basically, and like because people couldn't really go out or anything, I was like, I'd go for one run. I'd go like on like a 12K run, and then I'd go meet up with my dealer. So I'd be like, I'd phone him on my run or message him, and be like, hey, I'm like 45 minutes away, or like make sure he was good to me because I was only going out like once. That was like the worst when I kind of knew like I wasn't and I wasn't right in the head because of all the cocaine I was doing at that time, and that kind of led me into my downfall and yeah, my drinking. Yeah, I just ended up going crazy one day, and it wasn't good. It was like yeah, I went off the rails and just had snapped. I freaked out at home, and my girlfriend moved out on me, and that's what drugs can does to your mind. Like you start thinking different shit and making stuff up in your head. It was not a good thing. But an eye opener because it was after that that I had called Michael because I had obviously wanted help. I wasn't good. I wasn't well.
I do want to talk about your rock bottom and what sort of led to that connection that you had with Michael Del Monte. So I mentioned that you're a runner. You
Mm-hmm.
run with a team called Pace and Mind. I was a part of that group as well. And you, a few years ago, your coach, who used to be mine, Rajan, great guy, approaches you and says, that a friend of his, Michael Del Monte, is a documentary filmmaker and is interested in doing a project with you in it. So you warm up to the idea, but it's still just like a concept at this stage. So
Mm-hmm.
can you talk about that specific period in your life in the lead up to your rock bottom?
I had moved out of Toronto at this point, and I've been still in contact with Rajon. Rajon's been great with keeping me on a schedule of like running and helping me out that way. I'm able to follow it, and I really appreciate him everything he's done for me. And yeah, it's great that he reached out to me, and because I knew who I had followed Michael when he was a runner. I remember following seeing his Instagram account being because when I first started getting into running, I was like excelling into getting like before I was getting faster. So naturally, I was like, oh, looking at all the who inspired me and like who are the fast guys around town. I remember Rajon. I remember seeing Rajon like in a race, and yeah, I remember I was following Michael on his Instagram, and he was a runner, and then he'd stopped running for a while, and I was like, I didn't really hear too much, and then I heard about like these movies that he was working on, and didn't really ever think of anything. But then when Rayburn had told me that, yeah, that was interested in doing a project, I was like, "Well, that's crazy!" Like I knew who he was, and but I didn't really know who he was. So I told him that I was interested in like meeting up, and I met up with Michael, and he was like unsure of like he was just asking me like what my lifestyle was like, and I don't think I was drinking as much at this time. Maybe I was drinking a little bit, yeah, just a little bit. But yeah, I was drinking, and my cocaine use would have been like weekend type thing, probably 3 times a week, I'd say actually, because now that I think about it. That was basically my lifestyle. It was like getting drunk on the weekends and but not getting too drunk. So I would get the cocaine to kind of like level me out. And it wasn't like I was doing anything crazy. It was just that was my daily thing. But I was also doing my regular runs. I was doing marathons. So I was like an addict, I guess, but an active one that wasn't too crazy, that was still like partying and able to run high mileage. And so yeah, I was talking with Michael, and I remember meeting with Michael, and he was interested in me. He thought he was just interested in like because I told him like what I do. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't. I felt like it didn't affect my drug because he was asking, how do you think this affects your drug use, affect your like running? And I was like, I don't think it affects it at all. And he's like, I'm kind of interested in doing something, and the timing wasn't the greatest, and there wasn't nothing kind of like came out of it at that time. But we still were in contact. I was still in contact with Michael, and so fast forward, I guess, like I'm using like a lot of cocaine at this time, and my mind's like, yeah, I'm making shit up in my mind, and in my mind, I have this thought that my girlfriend is like cheating on me, and I run with it in my mind, and I just one day I just ended up losing my mind, and I just snapped and was freaking out like a maniac, yelling, yeah, just being not a good person and accusing her of cheating and like obviously being pissed about it. And that's when I grabbed my bicycle and I was like, I grabbed a bunch of cans from the one liquor store here, and I set out to the country. And I was going out to the country. I was slamming. I probably drank a 6 pack of like these vodka, like heavy percentage drinks, and I rode to the next town, my bicycle to the next town, and I grabbed more booze when I was there. And so yeah, I was like pretty much blacked out. I think I went back to the house, and I was like yelling at her and just accusing this being a fucking maniac. And I remember like riding off on my bike, and when I came back, like I said, that's when everything was gone. There, I saw like the moving truck. I just went to the bar because I didn't at that point want to go back to the place because I think I kind of realized what was happening for me at that point. And I remember coming back to my apartment and like it was just like empty. And I called Michael. I talked to Michael and kind of like let him know everything that was happening, just thinking my life was over. And I remember like just being angry at myself, and I just felt really shitty about it. I just felt really shitty about myself. I phoned him and he had picked up, and I told him everything what had happened, and I wanted help. I said, I don't know if you can help me. And he said, he right away, he was like, calm down, calm me down. And it was like, asked me what he could do. He's like, what can I do for you? Like, can you help? He's like, yeah, we can get you help. And so at that point, he came and visited me the next. He's like, I'm gonna come down tomorrow. He's like, can you hang in there? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I remember I went and got cocaine, so I went to bed and I went to work the next day for like half a day. I couldn't even do like a full day, and I left at like 2 o'clock. I think I had like $10 left because I'd spent like my last money on like that half. I had like $10 left, so I remember I went and grabbed like a couple tall cans, like the big ones, and then I went back home, and I just was sat there and like waited. Michael was said he was going to come around 4 o'clock. I think he showed up around 4 o'clock, and when he came in, he had his camera, and he was just like, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm not shooting. I just want to know everything okay?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, everything's fine." He's like, "Do you want to talk about what happened?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Is it okay if I film it?" I said, "Yeah." And so that's where the movie starts. And
That's the beginning of the documentary.
yeah,
Can we talk about surrender? Often I hear people talk about a moment of surrender, and I don't know if that resonates with you or not. I'm just wondering what was that thing that propelled you to say, enough is enough? I need to make some changes.
well, at that point, the surrender was for me losing like my love, my partner. That was like my life. You know, as as troubled or untroubled as the whole, that was that was my life, and to realize like to see that it was gone because of my doing, the feeling that I had inside, that was the feeling that makes you know that you have to address something, because where else are you going to go from that if you're not going to care about your love that you just lost? Then what do you then you know for me it was the emptiness of, that's what I felt like. what I was doing was obviously not the right way, and I couldn't. I tried living with alcohol and drugs for a long time, and I tried to think that they weren't an issue, and I tried to think I'd be able to. I tried to trick myself many times that I'd be able to do it, and that we could coexist, but we can't coexist. It's just something that I can't. And I think just that was what it took for me to realize the first time that I was hit rock bottom. Same thing, like different though. Like I was just myself. I was just in a hole. But this one to affect somebody was, I think, yeah, I think that was for me to really look at myself and try to get it right, try to figure out why I would do something like this.
During the filming, Michael suggests psychedelic assisted therapy for you. And I want to talk about that experience that you had during that therapy. I am wondering whether this was an option that you were automatically open to, or was it just the fact that you were at such a raw place that you were open to do anything? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think how it came about, because Michael had brought it up before, and before I'd really stopped everything, I was microdosing with mushrooms to try to stop certain urges, and they really helped me up into the point where I went into my ceremony. I remember Michael had, when we had first talked about things, he was saying like how he had helped different people, and I remember he had said that there was they had worked with somebody who was had a cancer that was not that was gonna they had like 5 months to live or something, and this lady had gone through psychedelic therapy for her to cope with the idea of what's coming. And he had told me about this, and I was intrigued because I've always heard like certain things, and like I've done mushrooms before, but I never did them like that in that sense. And I always thought them to be cool because always some weird stuff happens on it. Like you always see some, I don't know, some sort of magic always happens when you're on mushrooms, even when you're like I was younger, like not understanding how to use mushrooms, not understanding them really. So when the idea came up, I actually asked, I said, can we look into doing this? Can we do this? This is like, because when we started filming, it was like he just filmed like that. There was still no, like that was that opening scene was just like, okay, that was the opening scene. And then we go to the beach and I'm drinking at the beach, and then we go back and I get blow. That happens. And I'm still like, I'm still a while before I go into the psychedelic therapy. The thought of it was like, was it exciting to me? So I wanted to look into doing that. And so he went into looking into it for me, and he's like, we could definitely do that. The first, because I did 2 sessions, and the first session was like it was like a mind. It was an amazing session. It was like the most amazing thing that had ever happened to me in my life. It was one of the most, I should say. It was like something I'll never forget.
You called it a rebirth where you felt that your heart, mind, and spirit were opened and where you felt one with the universe. So let's talk about the experience itself. So this was done kind of in a controlled setting in the country. So can you describe the setup of the experience itself and then sort of walk us through what happened to you?
I was scared. I was all for it, but I was scared. I was like scared because I didn't know what the hell was gonna happen. Because yeah, when Michael was like, I can look into getting people, I had to meet these people. So I met some therapists, and they guided me through it. And it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool because when I first talked with them, I was like, I had they're explaining the process, and like there's different medicines that they could have used. And so it's like meeting and seeing what medicine is going to be best to fit my needs. And they decided that MDMA and psilocybin would be the mixture. So, like, when they told me, like, yeah, well, this is what we're deciding, and after I talk, like, go and like let them know everything, like, it's like a whole, you talk with them and they see if you're fit, and they really ask you what you're looking for, like what I was aiming to do. So the first one, like what I was aiming on my first session was like to heal the childhood trauma that I had, whatever that meant. That's what I asked. That's what I asked for. So we brought the whole ceremony was like they went through a lot of different steps. There was some medicines that they had there, and it was really spiritual. And so I was scared. I was scared the night before, and I was nervous, and then I met the therapist the next morning. It was Bradley and Mila was their names, and when I talked to them on the phone before, and but when I met them, I hugged them, and I felt extremely comfortable with them right away, and yeah, we kind of got settled in, and it was I had stayed the night before, so it was at this place that we had Airbnb, and it was there was some woods out in the back. It was a nice setting. I was got comfortable to the setting, and so the next morning we set up, and we had like a lay down kind of area set up. I had blankets on me, and then they prepared the medicine, and then we kind of like went through our the ceremony, and it was just about asking. I was just asking for my inner child to be healed. So I was just sitting there, and they gave me the MDMA first. So I took the MDMA, and then we're just talking and asking me questions. And as it's going along, I'd say probably like half hour, maybe 40 minutes, I can start to feel the MDMA, and it's starting to work. And I take the mushrooms. It's like a drink, and there was 3.5 grams, I think, in the first one. And so I drank that, and then yeah, we continued to talk about stuff and listen to like I think there was some music going on, and there was like yeah, it was really like just like settling me down, because the MDMA did that. It started making me feel like everything like glowy and nice and feeling like I was really comfortable, and I felt great and like comfy. And what the MDMA does, it kind of relaxes your body and relaxes, like I believe something like your skeletal, something that holds all of the trauma in that your body, how it holds it in, it relaxes all that. So it kind of like stimulates it so something's able to get in. So when I drank the mushrooms, that's the next part of it. Is for the mushrooms, the actual medicine goes into the finds all the trauma parts into your body, and that's where the medicine starts to work, and it'll show you or whatever it does to your body. So it was crazy. I could feel the mushrooms going into my body. Like I could feel it. It was like waves of energy, like searching in my body, because I was like relaxed and I could feel it. But it was like waves, but it was like not anxious waves, but like something was going on. And it was just like the craziest feeling. And I remember it was like, yeah, just like not being used to it. I had a blindfold, so I'm blindfolded, and I'm listening to music too. It's like different kind of like string kind of music, classical kind of like slow kind of stuff. So when I'm listening to it now, the like I can feel the mushrooms as it's going through my body. It's like I can see like a circular vortex, kind of like it's like spinning circle going round and round and round. So it just keeps doing that, and it's like I'm going down this. It's like I'm searching, going through this like tunnel, and it's like spinning and spinning and spinning, and it's so crazy. Like the medicine's starting to make me feel like a little more like anxious. I can feel it like more in my chest, and I can feel it happening. The music's like kind of like building up and building up, and it's the kind of the both are kind of like working together. Like as the music's building up, the circles like going with the music. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like this is crazy. And because I'm like trying to open my eyes, I'm still seeing the same thing because I'm blindfolded. And then it was like the song changed and it was like a different string, like a string music. And when the music changed, the spiral disappeared and it was all black. And then all of a sudden I was looking, it was like I was looking down on myself, like over top of myself, like this. But it was like I came out of a tunnel. So I was like, I said, there was like a kid, it was me. And I come out of this tunnel and I'm like looking around, like all scared, like seeing it's okay. And I'm like, oh my God, because I'm saying this and the people are like, what do you see? I'm like, I see me. And they're like, that's you. And I'm like, that's me. It's really me. And they're like, yeah, Shawn, that's you. What are you doing? I'm like, oh, I don't know. And I was trying to like, I look scared, like I didn't want to come out. I was like, I look scared. It looks like I don't want to come out. Well, there's tell them that it's okay that you can come out and play. So I was talking to myself and I made myself come out. And all of a sudden I was playing in this area and I'm watching myself and I'm like, yeah, it's I'm playing. And they're like, oh, what else is happening, Shawn? I'm like, nothing's happening. I'm just playing right now. And then all of a sudden all these thorns and like vines started to grab my feet and pull me to the ground. And I said, oh, and I couldn't play anymore. And I was like getting stuck. And it was like I was getting stuck. And I'm like, oh, the ground's attacking me, the vines, and they're trying to pull me down. And they're like, just fight your way, Shawn. Tell yourself you can still play. So I was telling myself, and as I'm saying this, I'm like, I'm getting my way out of these tangled mess. And I get out of this mess and I'm able to play again. I don't know how long this is actually taking in real time, but it's like the song's still going and I'm still seeing myself and everything's fine. Then all of a sudden, like I'm gone, like the song changes and then I'm gone. And it's like it's all of a sudden it's now dark and I can, and it's like I'm in like I'm just floating there and I can hear these things humming. It's like a something was like humming at me and then it stopped. So I was like humming back at it. And we're trying to get on the same frequency. And in as our humming was synchronizing, like when you hear like the on the TV, it's like ding, and you try to copy it or something, you try to get that same. Well, it was like we were trying to and it wasn't working, but then all of a sudden it went and everything like the line was like and it went and then went it all just it was like stops and I was sitting in like the universe. I was sitting in this platform and it was like I knew where I was. It was like the most comfortable place that I'm like it was like almost like holy fuck, I'm back here again or I'm here. I'm like it was like just the feeling. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm here. And I look next to me and there's this giant, it's like some kind of it's not like an alien. It's not like it's not like it's huge. It's like a Bigfoot. It's massive, and it looks like it could be like an alien kind of, but it's not. It's like some sort of like not a humanoid, but some sort of creature that I can't really tell what it is, but it's big and when I look at it I know it and it's the feeling and it's every single person. It's like the feeling of like if you've lived like 1,000 lives and it's the feeling like you've lost 1,000 of your parents. It's like every person that you've ever lost, it's like that is in that person, is in that being. And the being, it was like I hadn't seen that being in so long. I'm like, oh my God. And I started crying and I was crying uncontrollably in my trip, and I was just crying and crying and crying, and I was so happy that I was with this person or this being, this or whatever it was, and I was just crying. I'm like, I can't believe you're here. Like, what? And where have you been? I'm like, I was remember just like crawling up on their lap and like holding them and like just not wanting to let go. And whatever it was consoling me and filling me with feeling that as it said it, uh, like it filled that feeling, that void. It was like I'm never gone. I'm always here. I'm inside you. I'm in you. And that to me was like, that's the universe. Like that's like I went to another realm, and that was inside of me though. Like when I went in, when I put that on and put that, when I listened to music, I was going inside my mind. I was going inside my body. I went inside of me. That was all inside. So when I popped up inside and people are saying you're one with the universe, I was one with the universe. I was there where the universe, that's where that is. And then I remember it was time to leave. I knew it was time to go. I'm like, I know. And I remember crying. I'm like, I don't want to leave right now, but I know it's time to go. And they're like, yeah, you have to go. You're good. You're good to go though. And I left that person or that being. And I remember all of a sudden I was in my body and I was like I was just laying there waiting for something else to happen. And I was laying there forever. I was waiting for something to happen. Like what else was going to happen? What next was going to come? And I was waiting there, waiting there. Nothing ever happened. I ended up waking because I had to go pee, but I was in a deep state that when I was, nothing was happening. That was the medicine saying you have to be in yourself right now to real, like I had to sit with myself. It was making me sit with my renewed self and recognizing what was going on inside. And I was scanning and it was like nothing was going on. Like nothing was happening, but I was like consciously still, I was still, in control. And they're kind of like, oh, okay, like what's the next sign type deal. And so when I woke up, like when I had to go pee, like I made that in my, when I was deep in, because they said I was sleeping, but I wasn't. I felt like I was out. Um, I just was like, because I had to go. I made the conscious, was like, oh, I have to go. I have to go to the washroom. And then they came over and they like lifted my mask off, and I was like, and it was like all a little blurry and everything, and like no one was around. It was just Bradley and Mila were there, and it's like the camera guys were off to the side, like outside doing something. I was like, oh, they're like, oh, so how was it? I'm like, holy smokes, that was insane. I was like, I was one with the universe, and Bradley just he started smiling at me. And they were just really happy that I was able to go in and do what I was doing, like the way that I worked with the medicine. They said sometimes they don't get the results that I was able to get. And even when I was working, talking with them, they could tell that it was working, that I was working with the medicine, that it was showing me stuff that was like, yeah, that it was really doing something to me.
One of the things I heard you say is that this experience healed the parts of yourself that led you to drink and that those parts became healed. Can you talk about that?
It's hard to explain. It's just the feeling of like of I don't know. I don't know if it's like just that experience just shakes it out of you. I don't know. I don't know what to say other than I didn't have an urge to like I understood myself. I think it's I understood my trauma. I understood that it wasn't, not everything was my fault. Maybe I was being hard on myself. I don't know um what the trick was, like that I continued to drink, or I don't know what it was. It was just like when I came out, that experience just, it was like it just, I was just full. I don't know, something filled those. The medicine worked. Like the medicine really did work. I don't know what it did, but like I say, when I was feeling the medicine, it was like I could feel it going in, and when it went into certain spots, it was like that's when it started. It was like, yeah, it just brought me there, and then it was like, yeah, it was just so crazy, just like what I was seeing and yeah, what had happened after I did that first one. and I talked with them, like, they wanted to work more, and they offered me another session, like a free session. Like, we did a second session. We did it at my mom's place, and it was outside. And it was crazy as well. It was crazy as well. We did a little bit more. We did a little bit more of medicine. He asked me before we did the second one. The first one was a childhood. My second one would have my what I asked for. The second one was my shame and being my to get rid of my shame that I had in being an indigenous. And I don't want to say that like that I was ashamed at that point. When I feel like there was different parts of my life that I was deeply ashamed of being indigenous and trying to fit in, and so that those parts were still in me, and I wanted to wash that out. Like, I wanted that shame feeling gone. I wanted to get rid of it, because I think I still struggled with it a bit. And so yeah, we did the second one, and the second one was awesome. Second one was awesome too. It did get rid of my shame, and it showed me the elements. It gave me a new relationship with creator, with birds, with the earth. It really grounded me in that sense. And we did this outside. We had music playing, but I didn't have the blindfold on. This one, it was like I was at my parents' place, and I chose to do it there. There's a little stream out back, just a nice area. So we did it there, and it was good. And then the medicine really started working because we were doing more. I could feel it rushing through my body, and it was really heavy in the chest area. So it was like really controlling my breathing, and so my breathing was like really like my chest was really like going out. Like I was laying down. It was like I was spreading my chest a lot. I was breathing heavy. I was breathing heavy, and like because it was during the day, I didn't have anything covered, so it wasn't like I was going into like things were changing. The medicine started leading me like down to the water, so I had gotten up and I walked to the water. I remember feeling the water. I just had to be in it for some reason, and I left the water. I came back up to where we were sitting, but before I was because it's like a little path that comes up. But before I went up there, for some reason, I just dropped to my knees. Like, the medicine made me go to the ground and put my head down. And as I put my head to the dirt, it's like I breathed out, and it's like this little puff of dirt came. Like, it must have like looked like nothing, but to me, when I was on the mushrooms, like as I put my head down, like the puff went. And as I put my head to the ground, I disappeared into the ground, into the elements of the ground, and I could see it. And it was all this like soil, but it was all kaleidoscoped, and it was showing me what was inside the ground and how it was all moving and how it was alive. And I was like, whoa, like that. Cause I was like, what the hell did I just see? As I looked up, and there was a tree that was like with sun coming through it. And I just rose to the tree as I was looking at the sun. And the sun shot its beam, like beamed into me. I went into the sun. It was like yeah, it was like I literally transformed into the sun. And as like I seeing how it worked, and the energy of the same thing, it was like a kaleidoscopic effect of the sun working. And I was like, what the heck? Like, why is this showing me this? And I stopped looking at the sun, and as made my way back up, there was a rock. And same thing, I put my head to the rock. I disappeared into the rock with all these minerals. So it was showing me like the water. It was showing me the sun. It was showing me the ground. It was showing me like the minerals for whatever reason. I don't know. And I think it was showing me that because that's what was real. It was like the earth's elements. Like, it was just showing me like how it works. Like, you're a part of this, you're a part of this, you're a part of this. You don't see it, but you're a part of it. You can be a part of it. You can molt into it. It was showing me how like I can be part of how I'm part of it. or was connected, am connected. And it's weird. And it's like all in those indigenous art, they always have like the piece that's connected to the sun, or like something that's connected to the another piece, and it's all connected to that. So it was like really showing me that connection. And I forgot to say, when I was breathing heavy before I did my walk, I started like barking, almost like not a barking, but almost like a war call. So I'm sitting there on in the movie, you'll see, but I just start doing this, and it's so free feeling that like I start crying because because I'm doing the war call. Like that's coming from me. That's coming from inside. And when you listen to it, it kind of sounds like a dog, and it's kind of funny because or a wolf, because my clan is wolf. So I didn't find this out till later on, but it's funny how these things like are connected. But yeah, I was that was part of me getting over my that was my call, my war call. That was me getting my calling back of being like, being proud. So that kind of washed the shame, that like got rid of it. And yeah, it kind of set me on my way of kind of like my road. And I remember shortly after that, my friend messaged me a long time ago, and he was like, "Oh, there's this elder near you. I want you to meet." And I remember just me calling him. I'm like, after all this, like searching for whatever, I remember calling him like, "Hey man, isn't there like an elder out by me or something?" He started laughing. He's like, "There's a camp out by you, and we do work out there, and there was an elder that was we were out there, and I wanted you to meet her the one time, but yeah, she doesn't live out there, but she comes out there. Her name is Dorothy, and she's also in the movie, and I was able to go with them and do my sweat, and it was through them that I got my first eagle feather. I was given that by Jimmy Dick. Jimmy Dick gave me my first eagle feather, and it's an eagle feather that I wear when I run my marathons, or when I usually wear my feathers. I have three or four feathers that I have right now that I usually wear when I run my races, or go to a cultural something like or go to a powwow. I'll usually put that in my hair and braid my hair. My hair's long now. Yeah, I'm always going to wear the feathers and that. But yeah, that really set me on my path, I guess, and meeting people. I started doing sweats, and then that's how I got my name. I went through and got my naming ceremony. And so that's in the movie as well. So this all kind of like happened over, over about 3 years, and yeah, I met these important, good people that kind of like showed me that I'm not, that it's not my fault that I was being too hard on myself. I didn't love myself enough at that time because maybe I thought it was my fault.
That's really beautiful. So I want to congratulate you because you've been clean for 5 years now. So no drinking, no hard drugs, and I think that's incredible. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been good. It's been important for me. Yeah, I don't like to think of where I would be if I had to continue using, who I'd be hanging out with, or yeah. I'm just glad that I stopped.
What does resilience mean to you?
I think being resilient is to be able to go through it all, is to be able to push through, to weather the storm, I guess. You got to be resilient. It's something that some people have, they don't know that they have. There's different levels of resilience, I think.
One of the things that I'm exploring this season is the interplay between compassion and resilience, and I'm wondering whether you have any ideas around that based on your personal experience.
My compassion doesn't reflect to my resilience, though. That I can say. My compassion has come from, a lot of my compassion has come through my resilience. I can say that. I can say that. I can say I've been a lot more compassionate ever since all the stuff that I've went through that I understand now. I'm a lot more compassionate to the person on the street because I don't know their story. And I know that all of us have a different story. And it's not always cut and dry. And these people, there's a lot of people out there that are hurting and I think we all are hurting in some point. Yeah, I feel like I'm more compassionate through my resilience of what I've gone through is because I wasn't always compassionate. I wasn't always a compassionate person. When I was in my using, I wasn't compassionate. I wasn't I was an addict. I wasn't, I was I'd lie, I'd steal like stuff addicts do, maybe not on like a large scale but you would do those things. So I think through that, I understand now, like, I understand why people do things though. And like, yeah. And I think that's like, you had to be compassionate about that. And, I think I'm most compassionate these days about, I see like the street life and, it's just, yeah, it's really bothersome which way the world has gone and how everything is and how hard it is for people. And I think it is important right now for us to be compassionate because I think we are going to have to be resilient for what's happening, what's going to be coming, or what's happening in this world right now, because it's not a good scene, and it's not it doesn't look like a good future. But I mean, I think we as people have to stick together and yes, definitely be compassionate.
You can look out for the release of the acclaimed documentary Clear Sky at a location near you. Shawn Clearsky Davies is the subject and co-director of this award-winning film. Clear Sky, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for sharing your powerful story of resilience, and I'm sure that it will help a lot of people out there. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate that you want to do this.
Please note that this interview is an individual account of the subjective benefits of psychedelic-assisted therapy to treat childhood trauma and addiction. The Stumbling Spirit podcast is in no way endorsing this treatment. Please do your own research and speak with a healthcare professional. If you wish to connect with Shawn Clearsky Davies, you may do so on Instagram at Mizakwad. That is Mizhakwad. In Ojibwe, Mizakwad means the sky is clear. Thank you for listening to The Stumbling Spirit, Contemplations on the Path of Resilience. This is Fabio da Silva Fernandez. Join me again for another episode of transformative stories and beneficial practices to guide you on your wellness journey. If you wish, you can follow and DM me on Blue Sky at thestumblingspirit.bsky.social. Until next time, take a deep breath and another step forward on your path of resilience.